As Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed Shadows approaches, an increasingly discredited professor tries to distance himself from the game. Why? Well, let's talk about it on That Game Plays.
Let's talk about Yasuke and yet more coming out from the guy who is pretty much the source of all the Yasuke stuff. This story out of That Park Place and John F. Trent. Japanese government exposes another lie of Assassin's Creed Shadows collaborator Thomas Lockley. Look at him right there. That historically inaccurate. Here's the thing. It could be a fun game, but Ubisoft is going about this in the entirely wrong way. Does anybody want to give the basic rundown of what has gone right and what has gone wrong here so far before we get into this one?
Well, okay, first of all, you have to identify what they've done right with this game. Because I mean, from the landscapes to the gates to the lanterns to the you name it, they've done everything wrong in this, and they always like to claim that they are based in history, but they fictionalize characters within it. But normally they don't fictionalize the real characters outside of like inventing dialogue and things. They don't try to place them places that they weren't. So this is one of the times when they're doing all of the things that they normally try to avoid.
Now, a lot of people don't understand that at the time, Yasuke was also assisted by a companion who was, I'm not exactly sure how tall he is, but he is orange and fluffy. We have a witness to the exploits of Yasuke. Marvin the Movie Monster is joining us.
I'm here.
You okay?
Sorry. I ran here from Pro's channel. I'm all right. I'm here.
Well, you made it.
Oof,
you made
That's
it.
a bit of a run.
You made it.
I haven't run in 15 years.
We can.
All right.
Well, glad you can join us.
Chris runs more than I do.
Oh boy.
Speaking of donuts, anyways,
wow.
Okay, so the situation here, there's a historian that's been working over in Japan. He's a white historian, so just to give a little bit more clarity, he's not. I'm going to say he's not native-born Japanese. I'm going to go out on a limb there. His name is Thomas.
Would it make more sense to be a historian for every background instead of just one category? Because you might be missing some crucial details.
Yeah. I think you're right here. Let's get into this one. Hey, look at that guy. He looks kind of like Tom Cruise's stand-in, and I think that's
he does.
Yeah. Thomas Lockley collaborated with Ubisoft on Assassin's Creed Shadows for an episode of the company's Echoes of History podcast titled Yasuke, the First African Samurai Podcast. The description of the episode states Yasuke is one of the most captivating and yet mysterious figures within Japanese history. In 1581, so we're 100 years after America was discovered, at the height of the Civil War, he crossed paths with the country's most powerful warlord, Nobunaga. Their meeting bound the two men together and set Yasuke on a path to bring the first known samurai of African descent in Japan. Delving into the history behind one of the two main characters in the latest Assassin's Creed game, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Matthew Lewis and Thomas Lockley examine the few surviving historical sources to reveal what we know about Yasuke, Japan's first samurai, it adds. For those of you just listening at home, a lot of this is in quotes. This is what they are saying. Right. The description concludes with making it clear it's produced by Ubisoft. Echoes of History is a Ubisoft podcast brought to you by History Hit. Whatever that is.
It's so strange that an Ubisoft produced podcast would peddle the exact narrative that Ubisoft is trying to sell for this game.
That's a very good point. And it would be especially embarrassing if like Thomas Lockley, who is in this promotional podcast here, ever claimed that he was not collaborating with Ubisoft. Let's continue on to see if that's exactly what he does.
Jonas, you have the clip of Dolores Jane Umbridge going, "This is a lie," to play every single one of these quotes.
That's perfect. I need to add that. So thank you. I'll jot that down.
Wait.
Quote.
Can we do the one in Star Trek Deep Space Nine when they're trying to fake out the Romulan ambassador and he's like, "It's a fake." That's what I'm thinking here.
That poor Romulan ambassador who is disposed of in order to make way for Garrick's master plan. Yes. I'll jot 2 down. Actually, I'm jotting 3 down, but I'm not going to tell you guys what the other one is. Podcast host Matt Lewis also introduces the episode saying, in case you haven't had the chance to see it yet, the world premiere trailer for Assassin's Creed Shadows was released, and you can see it takes place in feudal Japan. This is a time famous for its samurai and ninjas, an era rich in history, culture, and stories. For the next few episodes in the series, we'll be exploring the fascinating period in history. So far, we've traveled back in time to the Sengoku period, sowed the seeds for the unification of Japan, and culture collider with arrival of Portuguese missionaries on Japanese shores. So, here it is. I'm joined by Thomas Lockley, Associate Professor at Nihon University in Tokyo and author of African Samurai, The True Story of Yasuke. Already, this is problematic.
Wow.
Yeah. So, as I understand it, this book is presented as historical fiction in Japan and historical fact in when it's translated into English. So,
could you imagine this guy at Nihon University trying to teach this to actual Japanese people, being like, sit down and listen up to let me rework your history for you?
It makes about as much sense to me as well, for lack of a better term, let's say someone from the subcontinent being a general in the American Army during the Revolutionary War. It's like, okay, physically possible, but that didn't happen.
It's like saying Abraham, or like one of your presidents was a Canadian or something. It's just no, that's not true. So.
Oui, bien sûr.
Yeah.
Clearly, Ubisoft brought in Lockley due to his work on African Samurai, The True Story of Yasuke. However, as initially reported by Thibaut at Minimal Effort Podcast, the Gunma Prefecture noted that Lockley misinterpreted the word Kuroho during a television special titled Black Samurai Yasuke, the African Samurai who served Nobunaga. In the archives of the Gunma Prefecture's website, a question is asked, I have heard that an ancient document in the Gunma Prefectural Archives contains a depiction of a Kuroho, black man. Is this true? Now, we're going to translate what was said here. And I think the best way to put this is Thomas Lockley heard what he wanted to hear. As translated by Deep L, the government entity responded in the Kurima family document, P00101, usually P stands for parchment in these cases, by the way, letter of Kiyomasa Kato, year unknown, addressed to Matazaemon Shimokawa and others, forgive the pronunciation. The word Kuroho appears in a description related to Hideyoshi Toyotomi's invasion of Korea. In Black Samurai Yasuke, the African samurai who served Nobunaga, broadcast on NHK BS4K on March 30th of 2021, Thomas Lockley, Associate Professor of Nihon University, stated that the Kuroho mentioned in this document may be the successor of Yasuke, a black samurai who served Oda Nobunaga. The document is a Kuroho document. Look at this face right here. This is a man that doesn't even believe what Thomas Lockley is saying. They continued, first of all, we at the archives have not recognized this Kuroho as a black person at all, and we are surprised by Mr. Lockley's suggestion. In fact, whether or not this Kuroho was Yasuke, there had been a view that he was presumed to be black. Nakajima Rakuaki, 16th century late Kyushu, Southeast Tirade. Anyways, it's in the document. At this point, however, it is difficult to make a definite determination since the black appears only in one place in this document. For example, the word Kuroho also appears in the Tale of Genji, which means Kuroho needed incense, and seems to occur frequently in Japanese classics. So this is something that comes up a lot. If you're looking at the translation of foreign documents. Hey, by the way, look at that right there. Minimal Effort in the chat today. Great to have you in the chat. This word Kuroho, basically he's saying that this is the only instance that it is referred to as a black person, where everywhere else in Japanese culture, in ancient Japanese culture, it means incense. So, what do we do about this, guys?
I think everybody who doesn't agree with our history just hates video games and hates people.
Okay.
You know what this sounds like? You ever see that episode of Rick and Morty where they go to Pluto, where like Jerry Smith says that Pluto's a planet, so the people of Pluto like think he's this great scientist, and they like hold him up just to keep saying Pluto's a planet because it's the narrative that they want to hear. That's what's happening here. They're holding up this guy, this charlatan, this liar, this fraud, this white guy from the West who's going to come up here and say the exact thing. Yasuke was a samurai, and then all of the wokesters all over the world will cheer and carry on and cry and wring their hands and throw babies in the air.
Right. It's what's often known as the appeal to authority, and I'm reminded of some moments where people with education degrees would show up and demand to be recognized because look, I have credentials in the field of education. Therefore, that means I know how to teach your children better than you do. Um, Not to get too political, but that's a ridiculous argument. In most cases,
Just because you did a bunch of, sorry if I cut you out there, Jonas, but like just because you did a bunch of research into a topic doesn't mean, because you can be literally researching the same topic and you can have drastically different books from different points of view of history and different opinions on the matter. If you've spent most of your time researching something that's canonically considered blasphemous or false and has had a lot of evidence not supporting it, you can say, oh yeah, I've studied like 3 books on the subject, but it could just be a bunch of bogus. And it's pretty obvious showing that the Japanese culture doesn't think this is actually what's going on here. And if they had just made this decision based off, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did this, as opposed to being like, hey, wouldn't it be progressive and show how amazing we are if we did this? Like, just do it because you want to do it and you'll think it'll be fun. People don't freak out if you made the samurai like a panda or something like that just because it was inaccurate to history. People are upset because you were basically trying to be like, no, this is how it was, and if you don't agree with it, well, that's your problem.
Right on, right on. I'll also point out I would love to see an Assassin's Creed Panda. By the way, that would be a great game.
Pandas were not samurais. Pandas were notoriously kung fu masters in China.
That's what I was thinking.
Fair point. The Pandarians, right? In addition, by the way, the article goes on. Some of our staff members, by the way, who are you going to trust? Some guy who has financial incentive to be the only guy pushing for a convenient and trendy narrative, or the government of Japan on this. In addition, some of our staff members have suggested it would be more natural to see it as a description of an object rather than a person when reading our documents. Based on the above, it is the opinion of the archive staff of the museum that it is difficult to immediately conclude that Kuroho is a black person at this point in time, it concluded. Basically, they're saying, I have no idea why you're reading it this way, and it makes no sense that you're reading it this way. I suppose it's possible that it could be incorrect, but no one does that. Why do you think Thomas Lockley is interpreting this interpreting this text in a way that is not consistent with the way that it's translated everywhere else?
It's because they want it, and as Nolan was saying, it's an agenda here. So, and stepping back from this whole conversation and saying, I really like, what is your motive here? Why did you do this in the first place? Japan, as I think I've said previously, has such a rich history of so many different characters within it. You could have easily, if you're going to do the game within the Japanese culture, then choose a Japanese character and honor that culture. So why did you choose this particular person to do this?
Well, I think it goes even further than that, Space Dave. I think it's, why did you choose a historical figure to make the main character of this game in the first place? That's not a thing that Assassin's Creed has ever done. It's always an original character who interacts with historical characters from throughout history. You have never once taken up arms as an actual historical character in any Assassin's Creed game. It is laughable to suggest that this is par for the course for this company or for this game series. This was done with pure intent. And malicious intent, and malicious against Japanese people, against Japanese culture, because the Japanese culture is built on the foundations of family, respect, and hard work, which are things that are a threat to the people that want things like playable Yasuke in games.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much, Marvin. Now, the question I have is, if we had somehow spotted a mistruth, there's a loaded phrase for you, mistruth stated by Mr. Thomas Lockley. Do you think that it would cause some of his statements about Yasuke to be called into question, even if it was like something just easily verifiable?
Well, there's always a double standard, though, right? Because if these people do get caught in a lie, they just deny, and say, "Well, you're just interpreting it wrong." If we were caught lying, we'll burn them to the ground or cancel them, right? So there's always a double standard with these situations and these conversations. So we can say, "Yeah, here's the evidence, here's the lie. This is, reflecting on your character and everything going forward." But they'll just say, then they'll start pulling out you're a phobe, you're an ist, you're that. You notice that pattern that's always existing here. So if we can agree on this, but we're kind of whistling in the wind, we're kind of wasting our time with these kind of people trying to be objective and having conversations and pointing these things out. And even as you said, with the Japanese government itself, they'll just keep brushing it off and brushing it off and brushing it off. So I agree, but will it have any fruit? I don't know.
We'll have to see when the sales figures come out. But I just want to point out that, again, we were just looking at something produced by Ubisoft that had Thomas Lockley's name on it. But here's a Facebook post from Thomas Lockley, author here. This looks to be based on this numbering structure. I'm going to say that's June 27th. They're probably of this year.
Why does his profile picture look exactly like the ones off the Disney C-suite, with the same tree in the background? Like, this wasn't the same location, was it?
Fair point. Yeah, thank you for your support over the years. Due to hate mail connected with the Assassin's Creed game, with which I have nothing to do and have no intention of playing, but many seem to think I am responsible for, I will be freezing this account. I hope not forever, but who knows? So nothing to do with it. Let's look right here. Nevertheless, he doubted.
In other words, I got called out on my crap, and now I have to run away.
Right. When you make money off of a lie, or allow even your own words to be extended into something ridiculous here, you're gonna make money off of it. But then when people call you on it, you're gonna run and hide and try to blame, I don't know, some ephemeral idea of toxic fans. I think that fans have a legitimate problem here. Here's the next part of the story. Nevertheless, he doubled down on his lie in an interview on the Lance E. Lee podcast from Tokyo on YouTube. Lockley stated, "I don't know whether the game Assassin's Creed should have him as the main character or should have somebody else as a main character. Quite frankly, I don't care." Lee then asks him, "But you have nothing to do with it anyway?" Lockley replies, "Nothing to do with it." That's a really fascinating. Lee then asks, "You see no royalties or anything?" Lockley responded, No, it was nothing to do, though my book is starting to sell well again, which is nice. That's nice." He then added, "But don't attack Yasuke as a man. Let's remember this man for who he was and the great things he did." Interesting.
He did no great things that are historically documented, and you don't know what kind of man he was because there are 2 pages of actual historical documents on him.
Exactly. That is speaking from the silence.
That's like taking Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter and being like, the best thing about Honest Abe was all the vampires that he killed.
You can't prove that didn't happen, though, Marvin.
Exactly.
Yeah, prove that it didn't happen, Marvin. Come on.
And also he was black.
Well, obviously, that's why,